Hi, it's Debbie Williams, and today I want to talk about how our emotions can actually trap us and not necessarily be useful. See, when you think about it, our emotions can only be teachers and messengers. Pain is an emotion. If you put a hand on a stove and we didn't have pain, you'd look round and you think, oh, I've burnt my arm off. So we need it to say, oi, move your hand away. And the same with emotions. Yet, because we have a brain, but nobody's given us the owner's manual, it isn't user-friendly. So we make the mistake of when we have an emotion of going into, why is this happening to me? Oh, this has happened before. I hope it won't happen again. Instead of asking the obvious question is, what is it teaching me? What do I need to learn to move on? I had an email today from a client, and it was interesting because she's got hooked into sort of an emotional feeling of sadness because she's seeing that all her friends and family are going away on holidays, and because she's overcoming agoraphobia, that she now has dived into sadness, and she's now predicting the future for herself of, oh, why can't I go with the, and enjoy myself? And she's dived full headlong into the emotion of, well, overwhelm, sadness, pain, and predicting a future that she doesn't want. See, when I had found out I was pregnant, I put off having children for a very long time because my mum told me how painful it would be, and I have an aversion to pain, as I'm sure most people do. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I thought, oh my God, I better do something here. And so I clicked into every day of visualising a perfect, easy birth with a healthy, happy child at the end. And I reinforced this over and over and over. And he came a month earlier, and that's exactly how it was, as I'd done it inside my mind. And if you think about it, top athletes do the same. And the reason they're top athletes is because they use their mind in a way of focusing over and over and over what they want. If they have something in their mind that they don't want, it's like, oh, no, delete, delete, delete. And this is what this lady needs to do, is to delete the sadness and also recognise it's not true. She's had this for just a few short years of her life, yet she's been on this planet, 10 times that amount of years where she hasn't had this problem. And so it's recognition that don't stay in the hole of the emotion, because also when we're in an emotion and we feel sadness and stuff, there's an element of self-soothing. When we feel a victim, it's like, oh, poor me, oh, I deserve to feel sad because life, well, I'm just not able to do this like anybody else. And we get into this like learned helplessness, and sometimes it's okay to stay in that for a while, because again, the purpose of that, it forces us to slow down, stop, rest perhaps. But if you stay in that for any length of time, you become a victim. See, life goes in cycles. Even if somebody's sort of got a problem, they haven't got it 24/7. They've got times during the day when they feel absolutely fine, and moments where they have the motivation to do certain things. But because the emotions feel powerful, we think they're important and we get sucked into them. And that's what we have to master and understand, that emotions are powerful because they're trying to give us a message. And so the only question to ask is, what do I need to learn to move on? To be obsessive about that. Also, I'll put a link to my website. There's a load of videos on negative thoughts and how to process them. See, when somebody falls into a sadness or a negative thought way of thinking, that's a perfect opportunity to get on paper all of the blah that's going around in your head and process through some of my exercises, which are all free on the website. The difference that happens when people come to me is that I'm their coach, and I expect results, and I coach and push and make sure that they stay on track. If you're watching this and you are suffering and you want to get well, then think perhaps of getting a coach, even if it's a friend, that will make you accountable so that you do the work and you will get the results. I say often to clients, it doesn't mean to say I'm going to work with you for the next 12 months, but let's set a goal over the next 12 months that I'm studying for a diploma in happiness. And to get the results in that, then you need to do the work. And so, as you start to do the work, think, well, where am I a month ahead from where I was previously? And going back to this lady, she's had some fantastic results and fantastic shifts in the short period of time I've worked with her. But then our mind suddenly puts that to one side and falls into a hole of, oh, what if, and predicting in the future the same as the past. But it's not even true, because it's only been the past few years. It's not been the reality. And that's how people keep the loop going. People can have depression. Depression comes and goes in sort of waves, where people are less depressed or, bordering on happiness. And then sometimes they wake up in the morning and they feel this feeling, and they say to themselves, I hope the depression isn't back. Their brain goes, oh, that, you want some of that? Oh yeah, we can do that. And it brings it back to the forefront. Another client of mine this week, she had 5 days where her IBS completely went, and her brain then sort of started running this thing, but what if it comes back? What if it comes back? What if it won't last? And as I said, we have a brain, we don't have an owner's manual, and the darn thing isn't user friendly, but we actually have the space in our time in history to gain mastery over our emotions. If we look at sort of, 50, 100 years ago, our parents and grandparents didn't have the luxury of the time. They had to work hard to get food on the table. There was no labour-saving devices. Food had to be cooked from scratch. Washing sort of took a long time. By the time they'd done all that, it was time for bed. Whew, and the next day rolls down. Here we have the space to think, and as you may be discovering, your brain ain't working on the same path as you are. So it's taking the reins of this horse and starting to steer it where you want it to go, and started focusing, what do I want instead? Think about, if you had a mastermind group inside your mind and you had a top athlete, what would they be saying if you're dwelling into, oh, but what if this carries on? What if it never gets better? What if, try not to think of the colour blue. It's there. That's what you're doing. You're thinking about problem, problem, problem. You've got to focus 95% plus on what you want instead. And along the way, as a coach, I give people different exercises. All of them, are either on my free sort of videos or on my downloads, that if you're motivated, you can do this for yourself. And I know over time, as I've been doing this for 20 years, that people can train themselves to be happier and healthier and fitter and enjoying life. Okay, great talking to you today. Bye now.